Hey y'all. We're not in separate screens. Look, this is not the magic of technology. This is the magic of airplanes and airline miles.
And airline mileage.
Yeah.
And blessings and abundance.
Yes. So, Steph is with me here today on Shawnee, Miami, Hopewell, and Adina lands. She came to visit me.
I did.
And we're doing a bunch of stuff for, because I came to visit her last time. So, but my kids are really happy to see you. Best Tita Steph ever.
Yes, makeup time was amazing.
Yes, makeup time with Riona was cool. So
she's a sweetie pie.
Okay, so let's breathe together. As always, before we begin, we want to take a moment to ground. Taking a pause to drop in our bodies and become fully present to the space. If it is safe for you, we invite you to close your eyes, straighten your spine, and direct your focus onto your breath. Take a few deep inhales, extending your belly out, and exhaling with a sigh. Be aware of your body and relax your shoulders and jaw and come into this present moment. As we begin our conversation today, we'd like to acknowledge and respect and honor the ancestors who are for our highest good and invite them into this conversation. We acknowledge the ancestors of the land that we are currently on, the people of the Shawnee, Miami, Hopewell, and Adina nations here in Ohio. We acknowledge you knowing that we cannot do our own remembrance work without remembering you. We also acknowledge and invite in our guides and source to be with us to support and guide our conversation today. We pray that they may support and guide you as well. With gratitude, we also acknowledge your presence, energy, and light, no matter wherever and whenever you're tuning in. Ding, ding. Okay.
Well, thanks for sticking with us, y'alls. Today's special edition, obviously, is because we're together. And we're also just being real Babaylan out in the indigenous lands.
Yeah.
I
mean, obviously you can see there's cars behind us.
Yeah, this is not a simulation.
So,
well,
I mean, we're not in the, exactly in the wood. I mean, there's woods up there.
There's many trees.
Yeah. So this very
tree. A lot of tree sisters.
Yes.
So yes, semi-live, reporting to y'all from park. I don't know what this park is called.
This is Wyman Woods in Grandview.
See, woods. We're in the woods.
Oh, there we go. We're in
the woods.
We're in the woods. Babaylan Brujas. In the woods. Well, as we always do, let's do a heart check.
Heart check. All right. My heart is very full. I am just loving being out here with my dear sister friend and just, learning the land and the culture here, as well as running with Ivy's. What?
Nothing.
What was funny?
The culture here. That's all.
There's culture here.
Okay. Yeah.
Or not. Okay. Debate. But yeah. Just my heart is full. My heart is full, and I'm very grateful, and I feel very in flow. I've just been going with it, despite the time difference. Honoring your body during a 3-hour time difference is it's a challenge. But I'm people do it all the time. So I'm just thankful and full.
Yay. And I am also grateful in gratitude, and it's been really cool having Steffi here. And we were mentioning how it just feels real natural. Because past lives do be real, folks.
I
So,
know. We'll save it for a study break, but we literally had a dream. You're in the same dream. So, that for me was confirmation. I knew this woman in a different life.
It's true. It's true.
So anyhow.
So anyway, our hearts are good. Hopefully your hearts
good.
are as well. Take a moment to check in with yourself. Check into this moment. How is your day going? If you're working today, whatever you have going on.
Laundry, dishes.
Yeah.
Just tapping in.
Running the kids around. Steffi.
Recovering from last night's going out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just put your hand over your heart.
That's real. Yeah.
Put your hand over your heart and
check in with yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so as you always know, though the scenery is different, the outline isn't. We always run a summary and then we move into quote or vocab words. Then we do quotes and we close out.
Yes.
So, chapter 13. We're almost done with the book.
Yeah, there's chapters 13 and 14, and then we're done. Thank you for rocking with us this long. And it's okay. Like, I have had people say, oh, I haven't been able to listen because I haven't been able to read the book. You don't need to read the book, honestly.
Yeah, we're a lens of the book.
Yeah.
If you decide to listen to us with whatever you're doing. Again, just play in the background while you're, I don't know, cleaning the house or laundry or driving in traffic, or you just really want to watch or listen to us. We're your brown Cliff Notes.
Yes, okay? Cliff Notes version. Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
So. Okay, chapter 13.
Summary brought to you by us. So with chapter 13, we were met with recognizing the truth when people say less is more, perhaps via pakikiramdam, remember that chapter, intuition. We knew that this woman was an esteemed writer, and I looked up Ate Mayana Minahal. She is an esteemed writer. She's an English professor at the University of Hawaii, and it was interesting because I was traveling to Hawaii at the time when I wrote this, and though she wrote only 4 pages in this chapter, it paired so much depth and expanded perceptions. At the age of 11 years, Professor Minahal's artistic inspiration was sparked and fueled into her adulthood by a fictional mortal woman heroine, Bullock Sunday, who dared to break past heteronormative standards and mainstream dualities.
Yes.
Despite being Americanized as a child, having parents who were inadvertently influencers to subscribe to the USA English teacher recommendations that her family must lose their first language or accent in obtaining jobs, it is refreshing to see that she was very resilient, and obviously she thrived through that. So years later, Professor Minahal would become a queer artist to successfully combine poetry, dance, and music in her Before Their Words performance, which is the title of this chapter. In her piece, she narrates a poem accompanied by an erotically queer twist to the traditionally heterosexual Muslim dance known as Singkil. Love that dance.
I was going to say, did you do Singkil?
I did. Yeah. I was a fan dancer. It was fun. Professor Minahal's boldness to interweave elements of traditional Filipino arts with her own imagination is an inspiring legacy portraying how kapwa can attempt to heal and recover the aches of our lost culture in our own unique terms and expression, essentially with our own respective imaginations.
Yes. So she was a professor, an artist. She was an artist.
Yep.
Honestly.
Turned professor.
Yeah. So beautiful. Okay, shall we jump in? Ding.
Vocab.
Insert transition here.
Amen. Okay. All right. Vocab words.
So I'll go first. On page 286. So what is her name? Mayana. Ate Mayana, one of the things that they didn't say their pronouns, but I'll just say they did in their piece was to have Singkil, but also Kali, so which is the Filipino martial arts, and something that I love.
To do.
I love Kali.
She does Kali.
I do Kali.
She's a gura in training. Gura bruja.
Bruja.
Gura bruja.
I'm a Kali Bruja. Oh, I'm a Kali Bruja.
You're bruja.
Oh shit, that's gonna be my
Gura bruja.
Gura Bruja. So.
Hey.
Okay, so she talks about what I wanted to bring up was she talks about the blind princess Josephine. So, Kali is a stick fighting form that, legend has it, was passed down from the original master and teacher, the blind princess Josephine, who lived in a village on the island of Samar. Little is known about her today, but Princess Josephine's legacy continues through this tradition. In this part of my performance, talking about Mayana, I collaborated with Gura Michelle Bautista, a Kali master. She's legit, by the way. While I read the legendary origin of this martial art as innately feminist, in a field largely dominated by men, there are few women practitioners. I can attest to that. In spite of that, there are certain techniques in Kali training, in the use of the knife, for example, that are traditionally taught to women much earlier than men because of women's natural abilities. Yeah, by collaborating with Gura Michelle, I hope to incorporate into my performance the history of Kali and the strength of women's physical power. So I love how she gave a nod to the history of Kali. And didn't you say something about Gura Michelle?
Oh yeah, there's a school, Kamaturuan School of Cal. I'm so sorry, y'all. Bear with me. It's a lot of syllables in Tagalog. Kamaturuan.
Yeah.
Turuan means like to teach. Yeah, School of Kali
Jin.
Actually, fun fact for my Bay Area listeners out there: February 12, 2009. The Warriors, during a Filipino cultural night, history night, they had a Kali stick fighting demonstration. I believe she's linked to it. So that was interesting for me to like see that picture. You can literally Google it. Again, February 12, 2009, there was a Kali stick demonstration in the Oracle Arena in Oakland, California.
Yeah, and I love how Ate Mayana wanted to incorporate Kali into her art piece. Because, you know, my whole view is that Kali is not just combative, it's very energetic, it's very spiritual. And that she collaborated with one of the very, 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 very few guras, female practitioner. Like Gura is like
Guru?
a guru, like a teacher. So
like a guru.
Yeah, like a guru, but so it's guru
Gura.
and gura.
I was today
Kali.
years old when I learned of gura. So
Gura, yeah.
I think that's dope though.
Guro is the male, and
Oh.
gura is the female.
Is that just Filipinx specific?
I think so. I've only heard it in Kali.
I've only heard of guru. So
Yeah, a guru is like
the teacher.
Yeah, it's a teacher. So I don't know the etymology or the history of guru.
Come on,
and
etymology.
Gura, but
Gura bruja.
Gura, Kali Bruja.
Hey, okay.
So also, fun fact, one day I was in our gym and I talked about the blind princess, Josephine.
Ooh.
And I was reminded so kindly, so very kindly, by an older white gentleman that did you know she was probably a legend? Like she probably wasn't real. She probably didn't exist.
You mentioned this.
I'm like, thanks for that. It doesn't really like why does it matter? Why do you have to say that? Do you know what I'm saying?
I would ask him that.
I know I didn't though.
What was your response?
I don't remember. It was a different time. I was a different person.
It's probably the obedient Asian woman response, like
yeah, or like sometimes what happens, I don't know if this happens to you or you guys listening, but I get so angry, I get caught. My words get caught. Like I don't know what to say. I like just like the and then you're just stuck, and then the moment is over, and so you're like, you can't say.
I'm hearing
nothing.
like a womb blockage.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, the throat and the
throat. Yeah.
They look the same, right?
Yeah,
At the camera.
Yeah.
Reclaim it.
So,
Reclaim. Oh.
but anyway,
Yeah.
it just speaks to how Kali has always been, in my opinion, in my perspective, has been a
Male
practice.
dominated.
Yeah, but it started as a practice that was
For all.
And for the purpose of resistance.
Period.
Period.
Not some gym capitalistic business.
Yes.
Witnessed by. We've had this talk about keeping the sacred sacred, which I suppose we can derail for now. Maybe a study break.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I mean it sounds like an ancestral right, and when people question it, it's kind of like questioning a BIPOC person. Like, are you sure about your culture?
Are you sure? Yeah, and it was almost as if it's the patriarchy just has to remind you.
White patriarchy.
Yes, too. White patriarchy just has to remind you that all your female heroes are probably legends, because they want to keep you in your place, and two, they cannot fathom the fact that a woman would be able to create something so fierce or that permeates throughout everything.
Yeah.
So that I just felt like it was a check, like just so, yeah, that's nice, but just so you know. But I wish I could go back in time and reply.
Man,
I just remember being angry, not knowing what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where, what they say, the Rumi. I'm thinking about Rumi right now.
Yes, Rumi.
The wound is where the light comes in, or something. But yeah, I think that's partially why the conversation is, maybe that wound is manifesting now in terms of like bringing it to light. You know, that we need to acknowledge that in these spaces this is happening, and it's not okay.
It's not okay.
So, but you should have been like, you do know who I am? I'm a Guru.
I wasn't
in training.
I wasn't at the time.
Oh well.
I wasn't at the time.
Divine timing. Maybe you'll see him again. You'll be like,
oh yeah, I see him every week.
Oh
Yeah.
Well, damn. Keep us posted. Dun dun dun. How you feel about your turn, sis?
I feel complete. Thank you so much. What is your vocab word, Sissy said?
My vocab word as this truck passes. I hope y'all are hearing us. I wanted to bring into the conversation about accents. Accent. Because on page 286, it kind of broke my heart a little bit, because it's this pretty common theme in all the chapters. Like, you know, my parents wanted to acculturate to subscribing to white
Wanted to
white
assimilate.
culture, acculturate, assimilate. This is anonymous. Okay, well, yeah, the sentence where this word is used, it says, my parents agreed they were trying to spare us from more discrimination in the U.S., knowing firsthand accounts of Filipinos that had been denied jobs because of their accent. In this performance and in my poetry, I made a deliberate decision to include language. So this is kind of her like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come back and turn around and put this in my art. So she grew up Cebuano Visayan, and so her art features Visayan and Tagalog words. But yeah, I mean, we joke, like we talk about accents. We've been accenting all weekend, or a week. It's not a weekend. But I think it's important to just kind of address like how, depending on the wind blows, like how Filipinos talk about their accents. Sometimes they're like per joke, or sometimes it's like it's not like it's. I've heard people make fun of it.
Yeah.
So
they use it as to joke around. I mean, honestly, that's what I do. I mean, come on.
I mean, it sounds like pigeon language, honestly.
Well, I mean, like, you know, you just like talk like that and
like that.
Like that.
Is it meant to sound animated? Like, it sounds more animated. That's why it's funny. ish.
I think it's
Honestly,
honestly,
it's not like Spanish and like
yeah.
French. So are Filipinos just supposed to be funny, like sounding? Because they're funny.
Well, is it funny sounding, or do we think it's funny sounding through the lens that we've been given?
I know,
right? Because but
it can be beautiful.
French
too.
accents are beautiful. Italian, British accent. Remember that there's a.
So why isn't Tagalog accents beautiful?
Yeah, why isn't this beautiful?
Like,
how come? Huh?
It's so perfect.
Oh
no! So there.
That was a blooper.
Or you keep it. I mean, damn. We're in the park.
Okay.
The laptop's gonna turn off.
So yeah, I do it because it's endearing. It reminds me of my grandma or my mom. You know.
Well, my mom doesn't really like. She flashed on me a couple of times. Like, don't make fun of my accent.
Aww,
like,
well, good for you.
Like, she'll say the word and she says it like with the accent, right? And then I'll like correct her.
Yeah.
And she's like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, I didn't mean to offend you. So, that's the decolonizing in me. Like, you know, who am I to correct my own mother of her native language?
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, accents. I know that, that's what a lot of the reason, like our generation, second generation Filipinx Americans weren't taught English, or not English, but weren't taught our language, but our parents wanted us to speak English because they wanted us to assimilate, and not for bad reasons. They wanted us to be able to fit in. They wanted us to be able to get jobs. They wanted they wanted us to succeed.
Yeah.
They want to, and they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know what we know.
Yeah.
Or what we have been called to now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So it's sad, but they did what they thought was best
at the time. That's part of the forgiveness work, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I think accent's just like a funny word, because language is so universal, and in reality, there's not even one language in the Philippines because there's so many islands and so many dialects. But some accents sound different, and I just wanted to bring to the table, you know, what y'all think about your accent, you know, the Filipino accent, if you have one, or, you know, because it's like they were called fobs, fresh off the boat.
Yeah.
There's that like stigma behind it.
Yeah.
That I'm like, is that part of the colonizing, or is it like shame of American Filipino culture? You know, it's just, so I would love to see a world where our accent is also beautiful. Like, we can talk in our tongue and it would be, someone would be like, oh my God, speak again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
True. How you feel? You feel complete?
Yeah.
Your vocab word?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Moving on to our quotes. Mine comes from page 284 about art making. So this whole chapter is about the piece that she did called Before Their Words. So, and you know, we talked about how she added Singkil and she added Kali. So, they say on page 284, art making offered a way to interrogate and creatively respond to complicated questions of immigration, decolonization, and transnational culture and identity. And then later on, she goes on to say that Ate Mayana used it to creatively affirm their hopes for a Filipino culture that was aligned with their values.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just as an art appreciator, that's what art is for, is to make you think.
Right.
And I just love how, you know, they said that it offered a way to interrogate and creatively respond to complicated questions because it is very nuanced about immigration and decolonization, and who are we even as Filipinx Americans, right? Filipino Americans. So, and then I love the fact that they used it to creatively affirm hopes for a culture, a Filipino culture that was aligned with the values that Ate Mayana had, right? So it's literally creation. I mean, it's art, so it's creating, but it's literally creation. They're taking a world that doesn't exist and going, okay, I'm going to make a world, a Filipino culture where our accents are beautiful, our language is beautiful, right? And so it gives a hope, with
that it's possible.
Yeah, that it's possible
that you can create something to align.
Yeah.
Rather than being misaligned.
Yeah.
Or like hiding or whatever.
So aligned with values of, kapwa, and values of living close to the land, and values of decolonization.
Which is very lost.
Yeah.
I was reflecting on that today.
Yeah.
May I share that?
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Please.
Just how, like, Americans, we come into a piece of land and we think it's ours, So we don't really stop and think about who was residing here before, what companies or processes were impossible in me obtaining this home on this land, or this business on this land, or doing these events on this land. It's like mine. This is my space for this time. But it's like, in reality, if we're aware that nature is live, is a living piece, it's like you're kind of claiming possession, right? Even if it's just like an event for the day or living in a house, right? You're claiming possession. So it's like what you're sharing is kind of like the values of connecting to the land. For me, what came through right now is just that, do we take time to be like, who lived here before? And like, how did this land get, culture? I would think about like, what spirits are walking around, what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just something to ponder. How we can get in line with values moving forward.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about not thinking about the land and just owning it, right? That's such an American capitalistic idea. One of the things my dad said that always really stuck with me, the one thing that probably aligns with my own values is he always goes, how can you own land? How can you have a paper that says you own this land, but when you die,
you become part of the land owns you.
The land owns you.
Yeah, because you live off the land. You need the land. The land don't need you.
Right, and then when you die, you go back to the land.
The land eats you.
And the land owns you, but they don't need a paper to say I own you. So how can you literally own land? So anyway, that's just
humans.
Humans question to ponder. But I love that. I will if you could creatively affirm a Filipino culture in the future, what hope would you have for that Filipino culture? I know you mentioned earlier, I want people to think our language is beautiful. Our accent is beautiful.
That's a great question, sister. For me, growing up, though I recognize the level of privilege I was brought up in, live in suburbs. My family came from the city, came out. My grandma pulled her bootstraps up, brought the family out the ghetto. But so for that, I got to witness like different cultures in different spaces, and then going to school in the Central Valley area, got to witness different cultures in terms of residents, in terms of California. But what I witnessed is that, like, we don't wear our clothes proudly. Like one of my best friends is Indian.
Oh
and
yeah.
their costume is beautiful. It's not even costume; it's just their clothes. Their indigenous native clothing. They wear it. They stud out to events. I was in her wedding. That was beautiful. But they'll wear it just to like, you know, a Friday, Saturday party, like it's a baby shower. Whereas we show up in like trying to be fly or whatever.
We do.
Latest brands, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever you like to use to express yourself, but I just would love to see us like celebrate being more in barongs or like, you know, prints and things that like kind of do connect. That's why I feel like I did have an affinity growing up with prints and non-solids because I guess it's in my DNA to recognize it. But you know, so I think like to answer your question, I would try that would align like for us to walk with integrity with like our senses. Like we feel Filipino, we look I don't want to smell like, what does Filipino smell like? Lumpia. Oh, flowers. We could smell like flowers.
I mean, probably like lumpia too. But
ulam.
We smell like,
the house smells like ulam. I didn't even say that. It smells like food. But
oh yeah, food
taste,
too.
you know, like the things, how sensual we are. So just kind of owning that. I feel like that's such a deep dive, sis, if I was to go into like the senses, because you're all about sensuality and Filipinos, Filipinx, how it's been sort of like a stigma about especially Filipino women being submissive. And I would love to see our brothers, like our Filipinx brothers, like just show up with the confidence and masculinity that, you know. So that's like a short answer to something I would dive deeper into. But I think that walking, talking, living, saying, breathing, smelling, doing, Filipinx. Yeah, and we have such a rich culture. There's 7,600 islands. So it's like you can always reinvent freshness with our culture.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, that's beautiful. And I think there's a plane. We'll let it pass. If I could create a Filipino culture, a future for our Filipino culture that would be aligned with values that I hold dear now, I think it would be, I would love to have and maybe this is all cultures, but an openness between generations. You know, we several times since we've been together, we've been talking about how we lament and grieve the fact that we don't necessarily have elders who are doing this particular work. There are like people in between here and there, but like we can't. I think it would be rare for a person to say, I can turn to my grandma, I can turn to my mom to
it's not as easy accessible.
Yes, to tell me about
to talk to an elder about
pakikiramdam or kapwa, or the idea of living close to the land, or the idea of you know, Babaylan. My mom don't know what Babaylan is, and if she did, she'd be like, no.
My mom didn't know what Kali was.
Oh snap!
Yeah. I was like, dang, colonization runs deep.
Yeah, so I would love to see if I had. Oh, that's it. Elders.
You want elders?
I want elders.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we about to be the elders. I mean, like as in age. Maybe not wisdom, but age.
There's a validity to that.
Oh, yeah.
Age can be nothing but a number for some people, but you know, the longer you walk this earth, the hope is that you acquire some level of wisdom to share with the incoming.
But then that's the thing too, like having a conversation, even as we step into elder role or get older, to be able to still have an open conversation with the younger generation and listen to their perspective.
Yeah.
And what it means for them to be Filipinx.
Yeah.
What things they're facing, because they're going to face way different things than we do.
It's very intersectional. Yeah. There's just so much intersection Now it's gender intersection. Now it's, we've got
Sexual orientation.
Yeah, we've got location. We've got
class.
We've got socioeconomics. Yeah, that's class. But I don't know. It's just, it keeps showing us how expansive we are as a human race in general. And so to preserve the Filipinx culture, and that while it's something to be acclaimed, and we're kind of rediscovering, I think, in our own ways, is going to be part of, like, that's where elder would come in, like, yeah, we used to do that, or that,
Yes.
So it's like having a board of Filipinx culture, like, which I think, like, the Babaylan Center for Babaylan Studies was set up for that.
Yes, shout out for sure.
So
for sure,
it'd be lovely. I don't know if they are. Again, I haven't tuned in clearly. They have like open town hall, like.
I know they have offerings. They have They have offerings every so often where you can. I taken some classes, like some Zoom.
Yeah. Me too.
Containers. So, you did too.
I took one.
The beginning of 2020.
No, I think it was like after the first set of offerings.
Oh, okay.
Tuned in later,
Okay.
but
So
it was. I mean, that's becoming available, which it wasn't. Like 5 years ago. I don't know how long CFBS has been open, but
well, I mean, Ate Lenny, she's definitely an elder, but like we don't know her. We know her. We know Ate Lenny, but we don't know Ate Lenny.
So if I'm trying to make lumpia,
exactly,
what is the way they did it?
Or not, or like just spiritual elders. Like
spiritual elders is the thing, because
we have elders.
Yes, that differentiates a lot. I think that clarification differentiates a lot because my mom would be like, go to the priest. I don't want to go to the priest. Like, he's a man.
I want a spiritual elder. So anyway, that is my answer to my question.
Yeah,
my own question. So I encourage y'all to think about it too. Like, what would you want to see in the future for our community, for the Filipinx community? How would you want it to feel? What would you want it to look like? What are your hopes?
Yeah.
Let's create it.
And an invitation, yes, to play the piece of the puzzle to build that bigger picture.
To create it.
Because we all have our pieces,
Well, that was mine. I am complete.
Same. Okay. So, mine actually is on page 285, and it kind of continues 286, but, Ate Mayana, she quotes the work of Virgilio Enriquez, which is he's a theorist on indigenous Philippine social science, who described extensively several phases of cultural domination used to subjugate the Filipino people during the process of colonization of the Philippines. The quote that I really liked was like, denying the facts of a people's history is tantamount to denying their memory. A people without a memory of their past is also deprived of their future. So I think, like, for me, I don't know if it's like the way in my mind I'm reading, it's like, it's disrespectful to not acknowledge our history because we're denying that memory. And the barrier that's also kind of like, I don't know, excuse card, but it softens the blow, is that a lot of people don't know our history. So it's like, how can you deny a history that you don't know about? So how do we honor the memory? Like, there's like pieces of the puzzle missing. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's kind of like.
Well, there's pieces of the puzzle missing. That's where the sacred rage sets in.
The grief.
And the holy grief, because we literally do have pieces of our history
taken,
rewritten, or burned.
Burned.
Like fucking burned.
And so speaking unto that, how our books were burned, what Babaylan book was taken, and how they're kind of being rechanneled back. It's the next page of 286. She quotes a Welsh painter, because what he says is, who's to say that robbing a people of his language is less than violent than war. So it's like you already penetrated our villages, pillaged our people, and then you burn the books. Like, that's the ultimate act of cruelty, because you're taking away preservation, documented preservation of our language, lineage. Like, what if those books were, it's literally like the Star Wars, when the books from the Jedi, they were burned.
Yeah.
And like he was grieving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's why book
club, hey.
are very necessary to bring back into light, to guide conversation, and again, like we said, integration and recognition of like the wound, like the violence that has been inflicted upon our people, our ancestors, even to this day, and even in microaggressions, and how we as people today in this moment, if you're tuning in, how can we kind of reclaim our culture? So to me, that's resilience, because it is very violent. Because I mean, like, growing up, Tagalog wasn't my first language.
Nope.
So
yeah.
How does that land for you, Sissa?
Well, one of the things that you were mentioning about books and Babaylan and our spiritual history, I do know that one of the things Chriselle had told me one time, and like historically this is true, like that a lot of our spiritual practices, though, weren't necessarily written down. It was an oral tradition. It was passed down, it was passed down, it was passed down. And because everybody was doing different things at different times. Like, if you read even the stories of in the excerpts of the book that we're reading now, everything is, they're like, this is Babaylan-ic, Babaylanic, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to be Babaylan. And even in the book, when they talk about actual Babaylan, they're doing different things.
Yeah.
So I think, too, this is why this remembrance work is important, and decolonizing it, in the fact that, okay, yeah, some of our books were burned, and that is fucking wrong. And there is definitely a grief there. But, wait. And we still can access that in the spirit, because it's not like church, where
you have a medium.
It's not like a Bible where
you are the medium.
Yeah, it's not like where you have to like have this knowledge from seminary, or it needs to be passed down from a lineage.
It can be,
yes, and yeah, respect if it
did
is
for you, yeah,
because
awesome.
That's wonderful.
Then you're an elder.
You are an
Where
elder,
you at?
and you have an elder. So that's amazing.
Come be on one of our study breaks.
Yeah, come talk to us, because can we sign up to are you taking what is that called? Not apprenticeship, but can you be my elder? But so anyway, yeah, a lot of this stuff was passed down like orally, and it was different for every Babaylan. Had a different flavor. Every spiritual leader was different because they had their own thing.
Yeah, and I think while that's wonderful, there's a problem about oral passed down, because it can be interpreted differently, and I feel like that's the derivative that folks who like more law and order not really will jive with. Like, they want it written down so they can reference it. And I think that there's a balance between oral and like referring to a book.
There's definitely a balance, but also like our Babaylan ancestors, they didn't know they were going to be killed. They didn't know, they didn't like, writing stuff down wasn't like it was now. They had to get like leaves, and it wasn't necessarily like easy.
We gotta check our paper privilege.
Yeah, like, okay, like, I'm gonna make this note on my phone right quick. And they worked so closely in relationship, right? So it was relationship.
It's difficult in a capitalistic
It is.
modern society with all these intersections and lack of like full solid support, and we're finding our way, we're navigating. I feel like that's why it's important for kapwa to come together, because we all have our individual channeling that we bring in, and we can put that back together.
Yes.
So
And how to figure out how to be modern day.
So
Babaylanic.
Babaylan. I like that. I think that feels more safe than being like, I'm a Babaylan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Babaylanic. Well,
sis.
I know, right?
That was what a beautiful conversation out under the sky.
The wind and the trees and the birds and the bees.
Yes.
You feel complete?
I do. I feel complete. Are you complete?
I am. I think we touched a lot of things. So, as y'all's know, after the quotes, we close out. This is weird.
What?
We're
we're
done.
together. I know.
We're together and we're done.
Yeah. It's, you know why? It's because we've had all this time to talk, so
I know.
we don't take these tangents because we already talked about it.
We did in the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, kapwa.
So as we end our conversation and close out this container with gratitude, we want to bring recognition and honor to our ancestors, the ancestors of the land, and thank you for joining our conversation today. And as we end, we always leave you with a blessing. May you continue to find the strength to walk this decolonizing path, remembering that you are always divinely guided, protected, and blessed. May you consider that no matter what your decolonization path may be at times, perhaps rife with bouts of rage, confusion, grief, doubt, and nonetheless joy, that it is all sacred. An invitation to remember and recover our lost culture, and to dare to remember your gifts to powerfully reimagine a peaceful world. Dear kapwa, all is well and will be well, and whatever happens, you are loved. And so it is. Amen.
Yay.